In orbit around the moon, ferocious bees assaulted a tin can. Spacesuited, untethered, and in free fall, Vivian Carter struggled to focus her thoughts and make sense of the scene before her. Woozy from pain and shock, she heard no voices in her headset, nothing but the seething white noise hiss of jammed S-band communications. That can't be right. It was that empty hiss that freaked her out the most. She was alone in the void, between spacecraft, and as isolated as she had ever been. Comms were critical, and Vivian had none. She'd been out of it for long, precious moments, ever since the Soviet cosmonaut's bullets smashed into her shoulder and raked her helmet and sent her tumbling slowly in space, 60 miles above the mares and uplands, the basins and craters of the moon. Since the impact trauma, she'd been suspended in a stunned reverie. Come on, Viv, snap out of it. Work to do. She dragged in a long, shaky breath. It was stale with pressure suit odors, an odd blend of metal and rubber, Vivian's smell, and the acidic tang of pure oxygen. An assault rifle in space? No reason why it couldn't fire in a vacuum. Ammunition had its own oxidizer. But dissipating the heat was another matter. Hopefully the weapon would jam before the cosmonaut could fire again. Vivian blinked hard to shake away the drops of sweat that wouldn't fall from her eyelashes in zero-G. Glanced down at the compressed air gun she was still clutching in her gloved hand, and not using. Squinted at the pressure gauge on her wrist, low but steady. Her suit was probably compromised at the shoulder, and maybe the calf as well, even with its 21 layers of thermal and micrometeoroid protection. But the holes must be small, and her PLSS, the portable life support system that she carried on her back, could replace the leaking oxygen at that rate. If she could get back to her ship soon, she should be all right. Okay, fine, I've got this. Maybe. There was no time for self-doubt. 100 yards ahead of her was the Apollo stack Vivian had seen in her dreams for a decade. A command and service module mated with a lunar module in glorious orbit around the moon. NASA's iconic image, the fundamental visual of the U.S. space program since Apollo 11. Under its shiny hood, Apollo 32 was better equipped than the crate that brought Armstrong and Aldrin to the moon 10 years ago. But from the outside, it looked pretty much the same.